I was standing in the fitting room, adjusting the collar of a tuxedo that was supposed to be for my wedding, when I heard the noise. It wasn't the sound of fabric rustling or a door clicking shut. It was the distinct, wet sound of people kissing, coming from the stall right next to mine. Through the thin partition, I heard my fiancée, Eleanor, her voice unmistakable. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was making a sport of it. "You need to be quiet," a man's voice whispered, though he didn't sound worried at all. "He's right next door." "Let him hear," Eleanor replied, her tone dripping with a cruel sort of amusement. "He won't do anything. He knows he can't risk his son's future. He's too terrified of losing the allowance my family gives him." She paused, and I could hear the smirk in her voice. "Go ahead. Scream a little louder. Let's see if he has the spine to knock." I didn't knock. I quietly reached out and pushed my own door shut, enclosing myself in the silence of my changing room. She was banking on my cowardice, on my desperation to keep a roof over our son's head. What she didn't account for was that the man she was mocking had reached his breaking point. She didn't expect that I would leave our son, leave the life I'd known for decades, and simply vanish from the wedding altogether. Later, when Eleanor finally understood the gravity of her mistake, she would drag our son across the country to beg for a reconciliation. After spending a fortune to track down my new address, she would be greeted at the door not by me, but by a little girl who bore a striking resemblance to my younger self. "Lady," the little girl would say, crossing her arms, "if you keep bothering my daddy, Mommy is going to get super jealous." My son, who I used to know as a rebellious, angry boy, would stand there with his eyes turning red, trembling with rage. "Dad," he would shout, "now that you have this new kid, are you just throwing me and Mom in the trash?" But that was later. In the moment, standing in front of the mirror, all I saw was a man in a suit that didn't fit. "The waist is loose by a solid 3 inches, the tailor said. He was an older man hired by the Vance family, and he looked concerned. "Mr. Penhaligon, have you been eating? You've lost a significant amount of weight in just a month. Should we take it in?" In the silence that followed his question, the sounds of flirting drifted through the wall again. The man next door had a low, calm voice, deliberately provocative. He was whispering right against her ear, keeping the volume down just enough to heighten the tension. Eleanor giggled, a playful, amused sound that made my stomach turn. "Louder," she challenged him. "You think I'm worried? He's pathetic." She knew I was there. She was doing it on purpose. The sounds of their breathing tangled together. My vision went blurry for a moment. I raised a hand to wipe a bit of moisture from the corner of my eye and stared at my reflection. I looked wrecked. I looked like a ghost in an ill-fitting suit. After a long pause, I finally snapped out of the trance. I forced a smile for the tailor and carefully pulled the door of her changing room shut from the outside, locking them in their moment. "Thanks, Mr. Henderson," I said softly. "No need to fix it. A wedding like this, it's probably better without a groom anyway." "Aren't you afraid Mr. Penhaligon won't go through with it, Ms. Vance?" The man's voice drifted out, cautious but probing. I could hear the smugness in it. Eleanor laughed coldly. "He's entirely dedicated to his son. Do you think he'd give up a spot in the Vance family trust? That's his kid's only chance to be somebody. He knows his place." His kid. My feet froze for a second before I walked away quickly, heading toward the exit. Eleanor Vance and I had been childhood sweethearts. After my own family, the Penhaligons, went bankrupt and fell apart, the Vance family hadn't forgotten our old ties. Since my parents died early, they took me into the Vance estate. They fed me, clothed me, and the only requirement was that I stay by Eleanor's side. She didn't treat me badly back then. You could say it was fate, or just growing up together, innocent and close. Even during her rebellious teenage years, Eleanor was fiercely proud, but she always shielded me. She never let anyone bully me, not even a little bit. Her younger brother, Julian, was always a brat, but he relied on me, too. Even when he was tiny, he'd follow me around and whisper, "So many people like my sister, but I only want Art to be my brother-in-law." I remembered a time she stood on the stage during a school assembly, wearing her uniform, and declared to everyone that I was the love of her life. Once, just because of an offhand joke I made about missing a specific type of vanilla orchid, she flew 1,000 miles to the other side of the world just to bring me back a flower. It seemed like all of Eleanor's rebellion was on my behalf. Back then, she stubbornly held my hand and took a beating from the family discipline cane just to give me a legitimate status in her home. But now, decades of knowing each other felt like a bad joke. Ever since our son, Toby, was born, everything changed. But I didn't understand why. Toby was my biological son. There was no mistake there. I had been by Eleanor's side for years, almost never stepping a foot outside the Vance estate. Even the security staff at the villa were male. How would I have even had the chance to cheat? Yet, on the day the baby was born, she fired the female doctor the Vance family had arranged for us, right in front of me. Red-eyed and shaking, she grabbed me by the collar, demanding to know if I had been unfaithful. I looked at her in disbelief. The DNA report was right in front of her eyes, yet she refused to acknowledge Toby as her own. My vision cleared, dragging me out of the memories. My phone was vibrating non-stop in my pocket. Before I could even unlock it, a barrage of voice messages popped up on the screen. "Dad, just hold on a little longer. Do it for me. You want me to get into the family trust like cousin, right?" My vision blurred again as I scrolled up. The last message was from yesterday. It was sent by me to Toby. "Toby, how about Dad takes you away? Mom is already with another man." I squeezed the strap of my briefcase and listened to the final voice note I had sent him. "Toby, you really don't want to go, do you?" Almost instantly, the boy's hysterical screaming came through the phone speakers. "Can't you just suck it up for me? Why are you so selfish? If you weren't so useless, I would have been added to the family trust ages ago." So, 10 months of hard labor and waiting, and all I got in return was a knife in the back. After the baby was born, and Eleanor threw her tantrum, the matriarch, old Mrs. Vance, remained silent for a long time before giving the newborn the single name, Toby. She was silent for a while before speaking. "Since Eleanor isn't willing to claim him, let's just call him that for now. To get the kid a birth certificate, I had to give him my last name, Penhaligon. When Toby was 4, I took him back to the Vance estate for a family banquet. His older cousin, knowing she was taller and stronger, pinned him to the ground and told him he was just a bastard who didn't deserve the Vance name. Since then, that became Toby's biggest psychological shadow. I just wanted to repay their kindness. I thought the Vance family treated me well, so I raised a child out of wedlock in their home. That was the single biggest mistake of my life. The Penhaligon family assets had been carved up long ago. Now I was alone, with truly nothing left to miss. Perhaps because Toby was growing up, and the Vance family saw he was bright, they decided to let him acknowledge his ancestors and return to the clan. That was the catalyst for this absurd, minimalist wedding. By now, the sky outside was turning gray with the dawn. I sat at a vanity table in the hallway and received a message from Eleanor's brother, Julian. "Art Penhaligon, you don't have a groomsman, right?" The voice message dripped with carelessness, and I could hear the mockery in it. "I'll send a few over for my sister." Before I could react, my phone started vibrating wildly. Obscene photos flooded my screen. I didn't even dare to look closely, but in a blur I saw the woman's face clearly. It was Eleanor. After forcing myself to calm down for a long time, I opened the photos and saved them to my phone, one by one. The wedding was in less than 2 hours. Sending me these photos now, his intent couldn't be clearer. He was cruel, yet, in a way, merciful. After a long silence, I twitched the corner of my lips and typed 2 words back. Thank you. In just a few minutes, he had severed the final thread connecting me to the Vance family. I clenched my jaw to stop it from trembling. I packed a few clothes into a bag and stood up to leave. The villa the Vance family chose for the groom was surrounded by desolation, miles from anywhere. But there was a car parked there. As I walked by, the window rolled down slowly. Running away from a wedding is boring, a woman's voice said. It sounded familiar and earnest. Why not just switch brides? I paused, ripped off my bow tie, exposing the sharp lines of my neck. The woman in front of me looked cool and aristocratic, but the smile on her lips was warm. I definitely knew her, but I searched my entire memory and truly couldn't recall who she was. Run away with me, she said. I'll get you out of here. Like I was possessed, I reached out my hand. No matter how bad the situation, it had to be better than being a smiling puppet next to Eleanor Vance. With a quick turn, I was pulled into the spacious back seat. A hand covered my eyes. Sleep. Everything will be okay. My nose filled with a familiar warm scent. Papa. I opened my eyes. The woman in front of me was leaning against the bed frame. Seeing me wake up, she straightened and brushed some non-existent dust off her clothes. You're up. Sleeping for so long made my voice raspy. Just as I was about to say thank you, the woman adjusted her glasses. Good, you're awake. Please settle the performance fee and the medical bill together. Huh? What? Yesterday I dragged you out of the wilderness and played the role of the homewrecker scumbag. Don't I deserve a performance fee? Embarrassed, I patted my torn suit jacket, realizing it didn't even have a pocket. I raised my hand to check my phone, only to realize the last bit of money I had was transferred to Toby yesterday. I looked ashamed. I'm sorry, miss. I don't have money right now. Can I write you an IOU? Her features were exquisite. Her gaze was cool as it swept indifferently over the hem of my suit. Sure. My last name is Miller. Just write Sarah Miller on the IOU. You have a child? I snapped back to reality, my brain suddenly flashing an image of Toby smiling gently at me when he was little. Sarah Miller. What a coincidence. My heart gave a sharp ache, and I nodded. Yes. She frowned and didn't speak for a long time. My thoughts were abruptly pulled back. Remembering what she said when she took me away yesterday, I tentatively asked, Yesterday, you said you wanted to run away with me. Was that? Sarah pursed her lips, her smile turning cold. You jump out of one fire pit just to find someone else to keep you? It felt like she ripped away my last defense. My hidden dependency was instantly exposed. I bit my lip, not knowing what to say. Suddenly, a mixed-breed dog trotted in from the door, bit Sarah's pant leg, and growled fiercely. The woman sighed, rubbed the dog's head, and turned back to me. Don't get any other ideas. I don't discriminate against single dads. I just figured you have experience taking care of kids. She squatted down and picked up the puppy. It's okay if you can't pay the debt right now. You can work for me. I looked up. But I've been out of the workforce for years. I don't want to be a burden. She paused, then awkwardly rubbed the dog's neck. Take care of my kid. Splash? Is it a boy or a girl?" The woman held a fist to her lips to hide a smile. "His name is Buster. He's a fur kid." The job was easier than I thought. Sarah was very busy, and I hardly saw her during the day. The apartment had 2 bedrooms and a living room. Right next to Buster's room was a small utility room with a single bed. Sarah told me she hadn't hired a nanny for Buster because he was naturally aggressive and unfriendly. But surprisingly, Buster was incredibly affectionate with me. He had wet, round eyes. Whether I went grocery shopping or did housework, he always wagged his tail and followed behind me. During the day, when I played fetch with him, he would quickly grab the ball, rush into my arms, and then look at me with a grin, making soft, whining noises, like he was spoiling me. I don't know why, but it reminded me of Toby when he was little. Before he could speak, he used to look at me with that same smile. Those round eyes, glistening with water, exactly like Buster's in front of me now, filled with nothing but me. I felt a sudden warmth on my fingers and realized my vision was blurry. Buster was licking my hand. I wiped away my tears and noticed my phone lighting up by his paws. I bent down to pick it up, accidentally unlocked it, and heard a stream of questioning pouring from the other end. "Where did you go, Art? If you keep this up, there's no turning back for us. Don't you want to get Toby on the registry anymore? Do you not care about your son's future? Where are you? Who did you leave with? The security footage shows you leaving with a woman. Which slut is she? Dad, Mom says as long as you come back, she'll change my name. Just come back, okay? If you don't come back, I won't have you as a dad anymore." Eleanor's interrogation felt like a joke, but when I heard Toby's screaming, I felt like I was the joke. My feelings for Eleanor had vanished completely through her repeated cheating. But for years, for Toby's sake, I humbled myself, only to find he thought everything I did was just my duty. I blocked both Toby and Eleanor, losing all strength as I slumped to the floor. Seeing me cry, Buster anxiously circled me. When he raised a paw to touch my face, I finally couldn't hold it back. I buried my face in my arms, suppressed sobs escaping my throat. Even a dog I'd raised for less than a month understood my sadness. Why couldn't the mother and son I gave everything to see my heart at all? Actually, the day I decided to leave emotionally was Toby's 3rd birthday. For the 3 years before that, although Eleanor had suddenly turned cold toward me, she was still a decent mother. Toby was sickly when he was small, and she often stayed, up all night guarding him. No matter how busy she was with work, she came home to sleep, and she never mentioned the female doctor again. I thought everything would get better. At the time, I thought maybe women go through phases like this. Maybe realizing they have to face marriage makes them fearful, causing them to act out when the child is born. Since she was willing to focus on the child, and considering the Vance family's kindness in raising me all those years, I felt I shouldn't just walk away. Who would have thought that on that day, I would catch the girl who was once so brilliantly spirited in such a filthy state? It was Toby's 3rd birthday, and we had agreed to celebrate at the old family estate. Eleanor was late coming back. Seeing the kid on the verge of tears, I finally steeled myself and went out. I didn't expect to run into Eleanor's cousin at the entrance of a private club. "You really want to go in, Art?" He looked like he pitied me. Looking through the glass partition, I saw Eleanor lazily raising a wine glass. The men surrounding her were handsome and bold. They looked 100 times livelier than me. "Ms. Vance, try this wine. I guarantee it tastes better than what's in the glass." The man smiled dashingly, and Eleanor leaned forward, pulling him into her arms. There was no refusal. It was natural. "All right." I stared blankly at Mr. Chang, who was sitting opposite Eleanor. He was a partner the Vance family had been trying to win over, known for loving booze and socializing. When I first walked in, I assumed Eleanor was just putting on a show for business. Turns out I was the only one fooling myself. I turned around, trembling as I looked away. Then, keeping my composure, I raised a hand to her cousin. "Don't mention I was here." From that day on, I knew. The girl in my memories, the one who would have betrayed the whole world for me, was completely rotten. I found that thing you asked me to look into. Sarah rubbed her temple and handed me an oil paper packet. Seeing me stare blankly, she lifted Buster's paw and waved it in front of my eyes. How does anyone in this era still use this kind of ghostly packaging to store things? I gritted my teeth, my eyes reddening. Thank you, Ms. Miller. When Toby turned 3, I finally started looking for the things my parents left me. I was young when the Penhaligon family collapsed, and I didn't understand that you have to guard against people. Seeing that the uncles and aunts of the Vance family didn't shut me out like the other old family friends did, I assumed they were my benefactors. They conveniently divided up the remaining assets of the Penhaligon family and then took me in as a side note, gaining a reputation for benevolence and not kicking a man when he's down. But fortunately, I had a bad memory back then. When the family went bankrupt, I completely forgot about the package my parents left me and never mentioned it to Eleanor. It wasn't until little Toby missed his birthday at the estate that night, lacking the blessings of the older generation, that I remembered the jade tablet my father left me. When I hung the jade tablet around Toby's neck, I suddenly remembered my father's oil paper packet. Art, if one day you have nowhere to go, remember to take the jade tablet to San Francisco. There is a way out your father left for you. I didn't know what Dad left me. But I knew only Dad wouldn't hurt me. Sarah said I owed her $12,200 in total. She covered room and board and paid me $3,000 a month. So, by the 3rd month of working there, after Buster and I had become completely thick as thieves, I felt the money wasn't too hard to earn. Walking the dog every day, taking strolls, I even had time to make some good food for myself. But Sarah felt I was paying it back too slowly and insisted on finding me something else to do. That day, as I sat on the floor petting the dog, a round-eyed little girl rolled in like a ball, sat down in front of me, and looked up at my face. She didn't say a word. After a long staring contest, she slowly pulled a storybook out of her backpack. "Read, brother." This wasn't hard. I took the book and started reading. Then the little girl's smartwatch suddenly rang. "Take care of my niece, an extra $1,000 a month." Instantly, my voice became gentler, more magnetic, and incredibly expressive. The little girl, seeing my change in tone, filled her eyes with smiles. "Brother." She had great patience, sitting there all afternoon. Her round face and watery doe eyes, combined with her fair skin, looked somewhat like Toby when he was little. Toby matured early and never wanted to hear me tell stories. Even when he was tiny, he could read bilingual books by himself. Before bed, he would look at me with disdain. "Who cares about your stories? You should work harder on marrying into the Vance family and becoming a legitimate son-in-law." But Toby had been sweet once. When? Probably when he was babbling in my arms, smiling with crescent eyes like a little sun during the day. It was just before bed. My heart suddenly felt chaotic, like some shattered emotion flashed by so fast I couldn't catch it. Looking at the little girl seriously eating the yogurt melts I just baked, my heart ached. The shattered emotion vanished completely. I only remembered the time I made a cake for the first time and brought it to Toby, only for him to sweep it onto the floor. Forget it. Sarah said the two difficult ones were very obedient with me. My relationship with Lily also became very good. She was different from Toby. She only looked willful and cold, but was actually very easy to talk to. Toby, on the other hand, looked obedient and sensible, but was actually selfish and indifferent. Lily squatted on the ground and pointed at the soil in the foam box. "Brother, sprout." That was Lily's first day. Seeing her look longingly out the door while pretending not to care, I softened. I took the initiative to take her to the farmer's market. It was probably her first time in such a place. She excitedly dragged a canvas bag, running back and forth. Some strawberries must have rolled to the bottom, and when we got home, a few were crushed and leaking juice. She thought I would scold her, but I casually tossed the broken strawberries into the soil of the green onions I'd just killed and squatted down to look her in the eye. "Let's watch and see if they sprout together, okay?" I saw a pair of watery eyes looking at me, and then the little girl suddenly rushed into my arms. When her small arms wrapped around me, I froze. It seemed like in all the years Toby was with me, he never once voluntarily hugged me. Seeing Lily dancing with joy, Sarah's face also held a smile. With soil on her hands, she smeared it on Lily's cheek, and the two of them chased each other around me. I suddenly wondered, if Eleanor hadn't changed, would our family of three have been like this? Just then, a series of knocks sounded at the door. Sarah and I still had mud on our hands, so Lily wobbled over to the door. As her small hand pulled the handle, I suddenly heard a familiar voice. "Art? Art, stop messing around. I'm here to take you home." Hearing it was Eleanor, I rushed out, afraid she might hurt Lily. Lily's parents were from Hong Kong. Seeing Eleanor calling me intimately, her eyes darted around, and she spoke in a childish, milk-sweet voice. "Auntie, if you keep trying to chat up my papa, Mommy's gonna get super jelly." As soon as I got to the door, I saw the formerly rebellious boy charge in, his eyes red. Toby rushed in. Seeing the soft, cute girl calling me Papa, he pushed her non-committally. I knew Lily was speaking up for me, so I quickly pulled her behind me to protect her. But then I heard even filthier words come out of the mouth of the child I raised. "Dad, now that you have this bastard kid, are you throwing me and Mom away?" I took a step back and handed Lily to Sarah. Toby had already masked his expression and changed the subject. He held the jade tablet issued by the family, beaming with joy as he said he had a name now. He didn't like my last name. The Vance family hadn't done a thing for him, yet he was overjoyed to become a Vance. The 10-year-old boy couldn't hide his thoughts. He smiled and grabbed my hand. "Dad, Mom recognized me. Just forgive her. I still like you the best." I thought of how obediently he called others Mom, and wanted to laugh. "I won't go with you," I said. "I asked you before, and you said yourself you didn't want to go with me." He suddenly lunged and bit my wrist. Sarah, holding Lily in one arm, effortlessly lifted Toby with the other and smacked him hard on the butt. My expression didn't change. "Ms. Vance, we never got a marriage license, so it's not complicated now. Take your son and leave. Don't disturb me again." Eleanor, standing behind Toby, hadn't moved a step. I remained expressionless. Only when she stepped toward me did I see a shimmer of water in her eyes. "We have decades of history. Can this little homewrecker compare to that?" "Art Penhaligon, don't be confused. Come back with me. Let's live a good life." Live a good life. A good life? That was truly the funniest joke I've heard this century. If a dog could stop eating shit, it wouldn't come wagging its tail at me with the stench still on its mouth. The door slammed shut. I heard Eleanor shouting outside. "Art Penhaligon, don't regret this. If you don't come with me today, I will absolutely never give you another chance to come back to me." Lily struggled and threw herself into my arms like a baby swallow returning to the nest. But at the same time, she covered my eyes with her hand. "Brother, they're dirty." There were no tear tracks at the corners of my eyes, but the corners of my lips curled up. "Yeah, they are dirty. Not worth looking back at even once." The day I saved enough money, Sarah gave me the medical bill. It was actually only a few thousand, but I stubbornly transferred the full 12,000 to her. The tall woman looked down at me and smiled. "The performance fee was just me teasing you. You actually believed it." I carried the few sets of clothes and daily necessities I bought at her house and got into her car. Sarah petted Buster. "Back then, I crashed the wedding. Today, I'll send you off one more time." It wasn't until the car stopped outside the airport that I realized Buster was crying non-stop. Sarah wasn't as sharp-tongued and harsh as before. Her expression held a hint of gentleness. Looking at the person and the dog, their gaze felt inexplicably familiar. Like I was suddenly transported back to my youth, before all the feelings around me had rotted and spoiled. My vision swam, and suddenly Eleanor in her school uniform seemed to stand before me, her starched white shirt smelling of green grass. I couldn't help but ask, "Did we know each other a long time ago?" Sarah's steps paused for a second, but she didn't turn back. Instead, Buster rushed over, bit my pant leg, and nodded furiously. My heart suddenly stung. Just as I was about to speak, I looked up and heard Sarah call Buster in a hoarse voice. "Buster, we have to go." I held back the stinging tears and entered the airport. Looking down from the second floor at the entrance, the person and the dog were already gone. Those two figures vanished, as if they had never appeared. Before coming here, I actually harbored thoughts of getting something for nothing. I thought everyone could be the protagonist, and I could be too. I thought maybe my father left me some family heirloom or gold and silver wealth, but I didn't expect that following the address would lead me to a stranger. His face changed when he saw me. The arrogant man instantly teared up. The sharp-looking man trembled as he spoke, his tone laced with caution. Rue, is he okay? Did he send you to see me?" I shook my head and handed him the jade tablet. "My dad passed away many years ago. He told me before that this place would always be my way out." His eyes turned even redder. I hurriedly handed him the oil paper packet. Inside the oil paper was a stack of letters. The recipient address was here, but for some reason, not a single one had been mailed. He looked through the envelopes one by one, then suddenly wailed like a child. I don't know how much time passed before he composed himself. "Call me Uncle Silas. I am his younger brother." I wanted to ask about the past, but seeing the stern Uncle Silas stop talking, I stayed quiet. After taking my pulse, his face suddenly became grave. After a long time, he sighed. "How have you survived these years? Your pulse is chaotic." How did I survive these years? Looking at the gentle face in front of me, identical to my father's, I bit my lip and spoke. I talked about how I was taken in by the Vance family. I talked about Eleanor. I talked about Toby. I talked about how I stopped my studies for her and became a full-time father. At this point, he suddenly interrupted and asked about my future plans. I didn't know how to answer him, but he pointed to the wooden plaque at the door and asked if I wanted to learn traditional Chinese medicine with him. Looking at his hand, I couldn't say no. I thought, if Dad were here, he probably would have pulled me out of the darkness like this, too. Sarah disappeared. She didn't accept the money I transferred. No matter how many times I called, no one answered. I was grateful she saved me when I was sad, but I didn't know how to repay her. Just then, Buster appeared. I don't know how he got here across thousands of miles. I looked everywhere but couldn't find Sarah. But seeing the visibly thinner Buster, I quickly wiped my tears and took him in. During the darkest days, he was the one who kept me company. I carried him back to the clinic. Uncle Silas didn't refuse. He just stared at the dog for a long time and said, "Feed him more. He's skinny as hell." I didn't have any foundation, but I was hard-working. If I didn't remember it once, I repeated it constantly, barely managing to keep up with Uncle Silas's pace. Seeing me learn more every day, the usually stern Uncle Silas showed some satisfaction. He finally brought up his relationship with my father on his own. Tears fell first. I just didn't want Aru's child to worry him too much. An independent man like him definitely wouldn't want his child wasting away in a family. It turned out Uncle Silas was my father's brother by adoption, not blood. My father picked him up, and my grandparents adopted him. When he was found, Uncle Silas wasn't just being bullied. He had been abused by older men, and his biological family, who favored boys over girls, was planning to sell him. Father sold many of his luxury watches to buy Uncle Silas back. Later, grandfather's business had a capital rupture, and the Somne extended family got the idea to send this adopted son into a marriage alliance. He refused. Father asked why, and only then realized that the brother he raised had developed feelings for him. So he helped the boy he saved run away from the marriage. But someone had to take responsibility. As the only son, Father decisively married my mother. Fortunately, my mother had long admired my father. They were a loving couple, a good match. Seeing Father start a family, Uncle Silas finally gave up completely and went to San Francisco in a fit of pique. Contact between them broke off, but Father always knew where he was. He just didn't dare approach to let his brother's feelings die down. Speaking of this, Uncle Silas was already streaming with tears. After staying here so long, this was the first time Uncle Silas lost his composure. Bringing up the past suddenly, the usually dignified and solemn Uncle Silas drank too much. After who knows how many cups, Uncle Silas looked at me, his expression suddenly melting like ice. That gaze was straight and full of pity, as if looking at someone else through my face. After a long time, he suddenly held my wrist. The art of healing is broader than it appears on the surface. I can see you have a wife whose heart is only on you and a well-behaved, sensible son. But you must know, today is not yesterday. But the right people will always come for you. I was startled, thinking of the mother and son whose personalities had drastically changed. It felt like a storm in my mind. It seemed like those fragmented memories I couldn't figure out were piecing together. Before, I didn't understand why both of them could change so much. But could it be because they weren't themselves anymore? Just as I was guessing wildly, Uncle Silas's voice slurred out. The wrong ones will come looking again, because without your luck, they can only live bitter lives. Just as the voice fell, the TV in the corner suddenly blared. Entertainment reporters shoved mics at the Vance estate gate. What are your thoughts on the plummeting stock prices of multiple Vance companies? Ms. Vance, is Toby your biological son? Toby's last name is Penhaligon. The man you married has a different name. So is Toby an illegitimate child? Does Toby have any connection to the Penhaligon family that vanished years ago? Did you participate in the conspiracy to carve up the Penhaligon family? My face was numb. Just as I was about to turn off the TV, I heard Eleanor speak with conviction. Toby was born to my lover. To protect their privacy, I didn't make my lover's information public. His last name is Penhaligon. He will forever be my beloved husband. Please do not involve the people most important to me. When she pulled Toby into her arms to block his face and solemnly announced to all the media that I was her lover, I couldn't hold it back. I gagged. After tucking Uncle Silas in, I was about to go back to my room to review. Buster looked at me with worry, lifting a paw to touch my cheek. Then I took a stack of cash from my pocket and shoved it into Eleanor's hand when she inevitably showed up. "Miss Vance, this is for medical expenses. If it's not enough, too bad." The moment the door slammed, my tone was mocking. "Anyway, what you owe me is a hell of a lot more than this." Eleanor limped out of the clinic. She was distraught, her mind filled with the image of Art leaning intimately against that strange woman just now. For the first time in 10 years, she felt a physical ache in her heart. Eleanor squatted by the roadside, calling out to the system in her mind over and over, but heard no response. When she first took on this mission, this body was only 20, healthy, sunny, vibrant, no longer tormented by illness, and she had money and beauty. She held the handsome Art Penhaligon, her face full of affection. Art looked up and smiled at her, gentle in a way that seemed unearthly. For 10 years, she watched him turn from a youthful, handsome boy into a considerate husband. He would iron her suits every day, personally coordinating her necklaces and brooches. He would make different soups and breakfasts for her. She thought she loved him too, right? Just not as much as the real Eleanor did. The boy following behind stomped his foot angrily. "It's all your fault. Dad won't come home with us. How are we going to live the good life now? Did you forget what the master said? You're a bad mom." Eleanor turned back, looking at her son flailing his claws, and looked up with disgust. "Acting for 10 years, Kua. Got addicted to it, huh? Art isn't coming back to the Vance family, and it's all because of you." Eleanor gritted her teeth, her heart sour. But love or no love, she couldn't leave him anymore. She gritted her teeth and ran back. She wanted to go back to the clinic. She wanted to take him away. She wanted to tell him everything. She wanted to tell him that those inhuman tasks were ordered by that system and had nothing to do with her. She wanted to tell him she loved him so much. A love she couldn't leave. But when her hand stopped on the door, a tall figure instantly covered her shadow. Eleanor looked up to meet the person's eyes. She couldn't help but tremble, her legs giving out as she knelt. Sarah sneered, her fist smashing into Eleanor's cheek, blood spraying. "Played Eleanor for 10 years? You really think you're the heiress now?" She froze in place. It seemed like when the fist fell, she knew. She had lost completely. Before losing consciousness, Eleanor looked back into the clinic. It seemed like the Art from that year was looking up and smiling in her arms. He said, "Let's name our child Sarah, okay?" Epilogue. The real Eleanor Vance and Toby Vance died the day Toby was born. But except for us, mother and son, no one knew. Because on that same day, 2 wandering souls, one big and one small, rushed into our bodies. Then appeared the seemingly benevolent system. If you don't agree to hand over your bodies, Art Penhaligon will think he caused the Penhaligon family bankruptcy, killed his parents, and killed the 2 of you. I held the soul of my newborn baby, my tone grim. "So when can my child and I return?" The system remained mechanical. Wait for the two hosts to complete the mission, and naturally you will be released back. I held the child. It seemed like everything returned to calm, but I heard the malice in it. I anticipated that the strategy mission wouldn't be normal, but I didn't expect the system to actually require that so-called host to bully Art. What the hell kind of abusive romance is that? It's pure bullshit. While raising my son's tiny soul, I watched that scum enter sleazy places again and again, dirtying my body. I ground my teeth to dust. Just as I decided I wouldn't sit and wait for death, I discovered that little Buster could actually squeeze out the fake son's soul. So at night, I told Buster stories about his dad. And during the day, Buster could return to his own body to keep his dad company. That's why Art sometimes felt disjointed. But the one hurting the most was me. The man I held in the palm of my hand growing up. How was he ground down like this? Art, I told you before, you don't have to bow your head for anyone. Did you forget? Idiot. Old Vance, are you serious? Really, as long as I become a puppy, I can stay with Dad? Buster stared at the screen in front of him, unmoving as he watched the habits of a puppy. I flicked his round forehead. Little brat, call me Mom. Seeing my son ignore me, I cleared my throat. Of course. When has your old mom ever lied to you? Buster pouted. Then why do you get to be a human? I thought of the tampering I did to the system and touched my nose. I was going to take my Art out of the Vance family. Of course, I had selfish motives too, like hugging him again when I took him away. Art had wanted to name our child Sarah before. I went back wearing that name, wondering if Art would notice. It's so contradictory. I hope he knows I never had a change of heart, but I also don't want him to know that I might really have to leave early. Hey, old Vance. Tiny Buster, his form transparent, trotted over to me. Little brat, is that how you call your mom? My broad palm landed on the boy's head with a smack, only to realize my son's expression was wrong. Sure enough, the boy bit his lip for a long time, his tone filled with anger and helplessness. Dad is crying again. He tugged at his shirt hem, listless. Didn't you say we could go back to see Dad soon? Dad is almost being bullied to death by those two bastards. Standing there, I froze for a long time before suddenly squatting down and stroking my son's head. Buster, Mom can't go back. You're a little man now. You take care of Dad from now on, okay? The boy seemed to suddenly collapse, hugging my leg. But Buster wants to be with Dad and Mom together, forever. My form was also transparent. My face was still the one from the year I left Art, but my hair was completely white. If Mom doesn't stay, Dad will remember everything. From now on, every day, he will only be able to live in the pain of losing both Buster and Mom at the same time. It will be despairing and he will blame himself. Does Buster understand? Buster's tear-filled eyes turned slightly red, like the despair when Buster and Mom saw Dad being bullied. I nodded. Buster can turn into a puppy and stay by Dad's side, then wait for Mom to come back, okay? Buster smiled bravely, holding back tears, hugged me fiercely, and then walked resolutely out the door. Until the circle of light faded, the puppy held his head high like a hero guarding a prince. The fur around Buster's mouth turned white, and he finally stopped at the entrance of the TCM clinic. The person inside, running back and forth, brewing medicine, heard familiar sounds, gave a few instructions, and ran out. Seeing Buster picked up by the sweating man, I breathed a sigh of relief. My finger pressed onto the circle of light symbolizing mutual destruction. The two foul souls occupying me and my son vanished instantly. At the same time, the bodies originally belonging to me and my son rapidly aged, completely losing vital signs. I took a deep breath and slid that brass ring onto my ring finger. A smile spilled from the corner of my lips, relaxed just like the day my confession was accepted. Goodbye. Working hard for so many years to protect the two of them, it was worth it.